Confidence disrupts traditional gender roles. Many men are conditioned to feel dominant or needed in relationships. A confident woman flips that script, and that can be unsettling. You know, when we talk about why some men fear confident women, we have to start with something real deep. Something most folks don't want to admit. A confident woman challenges what a lot of us were raised to believe about gender roles. See, we were taught, through media, through family, through the streets, that men lead and women follow. Men conquer and women comply. And for generations, that blueprint shaped the way relationships operated. But the moment a woman walks in the room knowing who she is, knowing what she brings, and not needing anybody to validate her worth, that blueprint starts to crumble. Now let me be real clear. It's not that all men dislike confident women. That's not it. The fear doesn't come from her confidence itself. It comes from what that confidence represents. It represents change. It represents evolution. And most importantly, it represents the loss of automatic power. Because if you were raised to believe your manhood depends on being the decision maker, the provider, the fixer, what happens when she doesn't need you to do any of that to feel complete? What happens when she wants you but doesn't need you? That right there is a different kind of challenge. And most men aren't taught how to deal with that. They weren't taught emotional intelligence. They weren't taught how to collaborate with a woman's power. They were taught how to compete with it or control it. So when a woman shows up fully in her power, walking in purpose, speaking up without apology, that's not weakness to a healthy man. But to an insecure one, that's war. So here's the truth. Confident women don't ruin men. They reveal them. And what they reveal is whether that man is truly ready to rise or retreat. Powerful women mirror insecurity. A self-assured woman becomes a mirror, reflecting a man's own lack of confidence or inner wounds he hasn't faced. Let me break this down for you. A confident woman doesn't just walk into a room. She commands it. Not by force, not by ego, but by presence. And that presence, it becomes a mirror. It shows a man who he really is, not who he pretends to be, not who society told him he should be, but who he is deep down. That's where the fear kicks in, because when a woman carries herself with confidence, she doesn't chase approval, she doesn't beg for love. She knows she's valuable. And that energy exposes something dangerous to a man who hasn't done his own internal work. It exposes his insecurity. See, it's easy to feel strong around someone who doubts themselves. But when you're with someone who knows their worth, it forces you to ask yourself, do I know mine? That's where the real fear lies. It's not about her being too much. It's about him feeling like not enough. He's not scared of her power. He's scared that her power will highlight his weakness. And when that weakness shows up, it doesn't feel good. It doesn't feel like love. It feels like shame, like exposure. But here's the twist. Confident women aren't trying to belittle anybody. They're just being themselves. The problem is when a man hasn't found his own voice, her voice feels like noise. When he hasn't found his own purpose, her clarity feels like threat. But it's not her job to shrink. It's his job to grow. Remember this. Confidence in a woman is not a challenge to a man's strength. It's an invitation to rise to her level. And the only ones who fear that are the ones unwilling to meet her there. Emotional independence challenges control. Confident women aren't emotionally dependent. They choose their relationships from desire, not desperation. That threatens control-based dynamics. Let's talk about emotional independence, because this one right here cuts deep. A confident woman doesn't just know who she is, she knows how to sit with herself. She knows how to cry, heal, and still get up and handle business. She's not waiting on somebody to rescue her emotionally. And that, my friend, scares the life out of some men. You know why? Because they've been taught to believe that power in a relationship comes from being needed, not from being chosen. See, when a woman is emotionally independent, she doesn't fall apart just because you walked out. She doesn't chase closure, she creates it. That kind of strength removes leverage. It eliminates manipulation. If you can't guilt-trip her, can't gaslight her, can't make her beg for your attention, you lose control. And for a man who's built his confidence around being in control, that feels like free fall. But let's be clear, a confident woman isn't I love. She's not anti-man, she's just pro-wholeness. She's looking for a partner, not a project. She wants connection, not control. So, when she says, I'm good either way, she's not playing hard to get, she's just telling the truth. And if a man isn't grounded in his own emotional maturity, he'll interpret that as threat, not freedom. We have to stop equating dominance with leadership. Being a real man isn't about being needed, it's about being worthy of being wanted by someone who doesn't need you to complete them. Because here's the truth. When love is born from freedom, not fear, that's when it's real. Let that sink in. If your presence isn't built on control, but on value, you'll never be afraid of a woman who can stand on her own. You'll be honored to stand beside her. Unapologetic standards intimidate, confident women don't settle. They set clear standards, and many fear they won't measure up or be able to lead in the way society tells them they should. Let's get something straight. A confident woman has standards, not because she's picky, not because she's full of herself, but because she knows her worth. She's been through too much, learned too much, healed too much to settle for anything that doesn't match the value she brings to the table. And for some men, that's not just intimidating, it's terrifying. You know why? Because high standards require effort. They require consistency. They require accountability. And if you've been used to skating by on charm or potential, a confident woman won't buy that. She's not impressed by empty promises or polished words. She's looking at patterns, character, integrity. She's watching what you do, not just what you say. That's pressure to a man who's never been expected to grow. And here's the kicker. She's not setting those standards to change you. She's setting them to protect herself. See, her standards aren't walls to keep love out. They're filters to keep disrespect out. She's not asking for perfection, but she is asking for purpose, for alignment, for effort. And if you feel like that's too much, then maybe she's just not for you, and that's okay. But don't confuse her expectations with ego. It's not ego, it's experience. She's had her heart broken. She's learned what settling costs. So now she chooses with clarity. She speaks with intention, and that level of discernment, it makes some men feel exposed, unqualified, or just plain afraid. Let me put it to you like this. If a woman's standards scare you, don't ask her to lower them. Ask yourself to rise to them. Because love built on standards is love that lasts. Confident women demand authenticity they see through masks, ego, and performance. That demands vulnerability, something many men are taught to avoid. Let's talk about something that most people won't say out loud. A confident woman demands authenticity. And I don't mean she's walking around questioning your resume or your bank account. I'm talking about emotional truth. Realness, vulnerability. She wants to see the man behind the mask, and for a lot of men, that's where the fear sets in. See, most of us were never taught how to be emotionally honest. We were taught how to perform, how to look strong, sound successful, Act like we've got it all together, even when we're breaking inside. So when a woman comes along who doesn't care about your act, who can look you in the eye and see what you're hiding from yourself, that's uncomfortable. Because now you're faced with a choice. Keep pretending or start growing. And trust me, a confident woman can smell a front a mile away. She's done the work on herself, so she's not entertained by surface-level connection. She wants depth. She wants truth. She wants to know who you are when life gets ugly, not just who you are when the lights are on. And if a man hasn't done his inner work, that kind of woman will make him feel exposed. But here's the beautiful part. She's not exposing you to shame you. She's exposing you to help you evolve. She wants real connection, not performance. But real connection requires real courage. So ask yourself, are you willing to be seen, really seen? Because if you want a confident woman in your life, you don't need a script. You need a soul. Authenticity isn't a weakness, it's the foundation of something strong, something lasting. Strip the mask. Show up. That's the man she's waiting for. Fear of irrelevance in evolving power dynamics as women rise in confidence, education, and leadership. Some men fear losing relevance. It's not hate. It's fear of being left behind in a world that's shifting. Let me tell you what's really happening out here. What's underneath all this fear of confident women? It's not just about ego or insecurity. It's about relevance. Some men fear that in a world where women are rising, growing, leading, evolving, they're being left behind. That fear isn't always loud, it's quiet. It shows up in jokes, in resistance, in that subtle discomfort when a woman walks in the room owning her brilliance. But deep down, it's the fear of no longer being the center of the story. See, for generations, men were taught that their value came from being the provider, the protector, the decision maker. That was the script, but now women are doing all of that and more for themselves. They're leading businesses, raising families, healing trauma, building legacy. And they're doing it with excellence. That shift is powerful, it's inspiring, but for some men, it feels like a threat. Because if she doesn't need you for survival, what's your role? Here's the truth. Your role is no longer defined by dominance. It's defined by contribution. A confident woman doesn't want to erase you. She wants to elevate with you. But you've got to be willing to evolve. You've got to stop chasing superiority and start building partnership. That's the new relevance. That's the new strength. The world is changing, and that's a good thing. But if your manhood is rooted in being above her instead of walking beside her, then yeah, you're gonna feel left behind. So ask yourself this. Are you evolving with the times or clinging to a version of power that no longer serves either of you? Confidence in a woman isn't your competition. It's your call to level up. Don't fear her rise. Rise with her.